Hello fellow builders and welcome back to the bench. Mediocre Modeler here, ready to start a new project. I'm kind of calling this the year of Moff Gideon because I spent so much time at the beginning of the year working on my Moff Gideon for Wonderfest. It's just I was gonna do I had the cosplay, I was gonna do the Darksaber, and I still have that to finish. But I also, while I was at Wonderfest, got to pick up a Moff Gideon bust from Blackheart Models. And here it is. This thing is just absolutely fantastic. I mean, the likeness to Giancarlo Esposito is fantastic. It's very simple. You know, you've got that. He's got his arm that goes on there too. And then you've got the Darksaber, right? Very simple. And it mounts, you're supposed to mount it to a base. So it would sit on blah, blah, blah. Now, if you know anything about me, I like to add my own little flair to what we got going on with it. I mean, because this is beautiful. It's fantastic. You can put it on the shelf with the base and everything, and you could be complete. Or you don't even need a base. You could set it flat on a shelf like that, and you'd be happy. Okay. But I like to add a little of Mediocre Modeler something to it, just so I don't feel like I'm just slapping paint on it and going and calling it good. I had a couple of ideas, and the one idea was, since when we first are introduced to Moff Gideon, he's getting Beskar ingots, and so I wanted to incorporate that into it. And I had already modeled an ingot. I did it back when Mandalorian was on, and so I already have an ingot. That's not the problem with the ingot. Is I was just learning how to use Fusion 360, so it's just plain. There's no. If I were going to do this again, I would probably model in some Damascus steel look to it. But there might be a way to kind of fake it. And I thought about doing the first thought was doing hydro dipping. And basically I would take some different color paints, some silvers and blacks, and put it spray it on the top layer of a tank of water, and then dip the ingot through it. The problem with that is the model takes up a good majority of the ingot. I want the Imperial cog to still show, so he's going to sit on there at kind of an angle. So I needed to come up with, I wanted something else, and I wanted to showcase this as well as the Moff. So I needed something else. So all that, this needed a base. The base needed a base. And here's what we came up with. Nothing fancy, just a little holder that would hold the ingot and just keep everything from moving around. But still, that wasn't enough. I wanted it to have a little bit of flair. So we added Long Live the Empire. Very Moff Gideon. Very Moff Gideon. So all we got to do is print it. And printed we did. It only took 2 tries. So we're just going to knock off some of the printing marks. This was like 120 grit sandpaper, which I felt was a little bit aggressive as I'm doing this. So I stop and go get some 320 just to smooth everything out. I'm keeping the bottom base very simple. We're just going to coat it with a flat black and then paint in the lettering and gloss coat it. The ingot had been primered in the past, but I decided to go on ahead and re-prime it, but it needed a little bit of sanding just to smooth things out. So normally the ingots have that Damascus steel look to it, and like I had a couple of ideas of how I wanted to do that, but what I wanted to try first was using some of this forged hammer. I use this on my Mandalorian helmet, so in theory the two will match. My Mandalorian helmet and this will match as far as a Beskar for me. I do like the Damascus look, but as much as this is going to be covered up by the model kit, it doesn't make sense to do that and to cover it up. But let's see what we get with the hammered paint. I like the way it looks. It's got a little bit of a texture on there. I wanted a little bit more of a mottled look though, more Damascus-y, but maybe we can fix it with a wash, or maybe it doesn't matter. We're just gonna have to let it dry. Yeah. All right. Well, to be fair, that looks pretty good. It's got that hammered metal look. I like the side better. It's got a little more black in it. Maybe I don't know. I saw this video where this girl had taken a paintbrush, a fan paintbrush, and done some of that. Maybe I'll try that. But for the most part, we're gonna get the black painted in on the cog, and we're gonna call that good. But we're gonna get the base. That's how that's gonna look in there like that. I decided that since this is Imperial, the bottom of it, it's going to be a gloss back black. So we're just going to go ahead and we'll set this aside and get a coat of gloss black on that guy. So here's the plan. Since the letters are recessed on the bottom base, long live the Empire, I figured I'd just get a syringe, fill it with paint, and just inject it down into each one of the letters, filling them up. Sounds simple enough. Well, you know. I started off okay, and I was filling it, and then I got to the point where I was putting too much paint into the letters and it was bleeding out onto the top surface. So I ended up grabbing a cotton swab tip to try and dry up the paint on the surface. I'm definitely going to have to repaint the top layer of this. Moving on to the ingot, I still wanted to try painting the Damascus pattern on there, even though the majority of it is going to be covered up by the model. At least it gave me a chance to practice. You never know, it could come in handy sometime in the future. And this is what we came up with. Now, if I'm being honest, if this were the centerpiece of a display or whatever, in my opinion, it's not good enough. It's just not. From a distance, it doesn't look that bad. You're like, oh, look, that's Damascus steel over there, but just right here at hand, it could look better. But it's going to go underneath something else. I got the practice in. I have the knowledge. Now I know. I know what I need to do. I probably would have gone with maybe a little bit bigger fan paintbrush, but that's for next time. So now we're going to work on the Moff. I've already put a clear coat on here. So this part, for the most part, is done, except for the fact I'm trying to decide whether I want to drill a hole through this and mount it so these two pieces stay permanently attached. Because there's still that thing in the back of my head is just like, what if I need to move it and transport it or want to do something different in the future? So since it's just going to sit on the shelf, I don't think I'll drill a hole in it just yet. But with this part done and basically just needing to let me grab it. Hold on. And there's that. Long live the Emperor. So I was getting bleeding. You can see where I've had to dab across the top of this to get the red paint off. But the paint is recessed down inside there just like I wanted. That goes on there like that. Boom, boom. Those two pieces. I'm still having second thoughts. I could go in and make redo this model, hollow the base out, make the bottom a little bit thicker to encompass batteries and lights, and I think that would be fantastic. And maybe I should just model that put in an Etsy store, and that way this would make a really cool base for other things. Send me your thoughts. We'll do a group thought on that one. But for this particular project, I think this looks good. I'll just be able to just go back in with some paint and just lightly dab over that and remove some of that red, do a nice gloss coat over the top of that. These two pieces are done. That just leaves our buddy the Moff. The way to break this up into this is all dark. So the armor obviously is going to be a gloss black. You have a couple of the panel lines need to be painted in there, the panel colors. You got the armor, the tunic, and the cloak. Well, yeah. And then you got the skin tone. I want at least 3. So I want a gloss black. I was thinking a flat black on the cloak, and then having maybe a charcoal black for the under tunic. Maybe I need to reverse those, but I definitely need 2 more colors. I'm a little bit concerned about the skin tone. The sculpt is so good on this. I mean, look at that. Look at that face. Look at that face. I want to do it justice. I want George to be proud of me. So that may require a trip to. Require a trip to the hobby shop, and I need to pull up some headshots of Mr. Giancarlo Esposito just to make sure I get a good capture of the proper skin tone. But to get it started, let's at least get a coat of primer on here, and then we'll decide. We'll get a coat of primer on, go through our paint, see what we got, and then decide whether we need to go to the hobby shop or not. Which, it's never a bad idea to go to the hobby shop. But, use what you got, get what you need. Okay? All right, we're going to do that. Taking my own advice, I'm using what I have. After all, the 2 colors that I needed to start with was a gloss black and a flat black. I have those. So after coating Moff with Tamiya surface primer, I decided to tape up his head because that's the last thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to hand paint all that. So the first color we're going to lay down is the flat black, which is going to cover the cape. Then we'll move on to a gloss black for the armor. I'm painting the gloss black here, but while it was primered with the flat black, I went ahead and painted the tunic. I used a charcoal-y flat black mix to give the cloth a different tone. The gloss black is the same gloss black that I used for my Moff Gideon armor. I wanted them to match. As I'm putting the final touches on the torso part of this bust, I wanted little Gideon to have something that I didn't have on mine. The arm had a red pinstripe going down it, and the fabric had that ridge there, so I wanted to make sure I got that painted on there. So a couple of buttons, a couple of switches, and then we're good to go to start painting the head and face. Well, I'm going to show you the face, and I feel like I do better with ships and weapons and stuff like that. Actual organic things I struggle with. And one of the hardest things for me is trying to get a proper skin tone. And to catch the skin tone, it's not a matter of just going to the store and going, hey, he's a black guy, let's get a brown. You know, I mean, I would have done that in the past, but I've gotten to the point where I've started messing around with mixing paints to get the shade that I need. So to get close to Giancarlo Esposito's, you know, that guy. His skin tone, I had a mixture of Tamiya red brown and Vallejo sand primer. I'm gonna show this to you, so all right, and this is what I came up with. Okay, I think the skin tone is good. I'm not gonna call it great. I think it's really good. I was really struggling to make sure that the cape, the tunic, like the arm tunic, and the armor were different. You know, I didn't want to just go flat black and then it's just, I wanted to make sure these were all separate elements that work together. And I think the gloss coming off that armor, I think is fantastic. It's kind of hard to tell the difference between the tunic piece and the cape, but I think it's subtle and it's there. Look at that. I mean, the eyes, I struggle with eyes. I just do. So the last thing I have to do is to paint the darksaber, and it's drying, and then it all goes together. And so let me get that knocked out real quick, and we'll put it all together for the final reveal. Finishing off the darksaber was very simple. Basically, I just painted the whole thing with my flat black. And now I'm going in with a chrome marker pen to outline the outer edge. There are some parts of the darksaber in the center where the black part is. It kind of looks like crackly lightning. I'm going to forego that for right now because it's not the centerpiece of the model. We'll tackle that when I build my darksaber. So the last thing we have to do is just glue it in place. I know I say this pretty much every time, but that came out better than I expected. And it did. I trying to get that picture in your head of what you want it to look like translated into that thing in front of you is it's not always easy. And sometimes the thing that you end up with in front of you, it doesn't match what you had in your head, but sometimes it's better. I mean, I was able to do things that I didn't think I was going to be able to do with that. The way I have the ingot positioned on the base, it's in the back. I had originally had it on the front corner, so as the model sat on it, it would be with Moff here and the ingot would have been here. And I didn't like the way, I felt like it was off center. It was pushed off the way to the left. So I flipped it around. I almost reprinted it to move the cog to the front so that you would have the Darksaber here and the cog would be right there. But the way it's set up, I mean, you know what it is, and with the cog kind of in that back corner, you can kind of see the Damascus steel attempt on there, and it gives you a good idea. So thought went into the placement of everything. I even considered going in and finding a Moff Gideon 3D one-piece 3D print helmet so I could just print it like in scale and put it there, but he didn't wear the helmet with that armor. That does it matter? I don't know. I think it's cool. Either way, it might happen. It might not. I'll just have to see. I put the web page up for Blackheart Models, and again, thanks to George he's such a great sculptor. As a matter of fact, in making sure I got the name of the series right, I had gone to Blackheart's webpage, and he's got an alien's Apone bust on there. Oh, that looks so good. So he's got an Apone, he's got a bishop with, he's kind of leaning back with all his guts splayed out. There's already a Ripley there. I think there's a Hicks as well. And then there's kaiju stuff. There's horror. I can already see where some of my models money is going already. But I've done my part. Now it's time for you to go do your part. It's time for you to go and build something. Doesn't matter what it is. Just gotta get your chops going, get that stuff out there, get all those creative juices flowing. And then let me know about it. Send a picture. But until next time, have fun, be safe, and go build something. Long live the Empire. Pew 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 pew.